How we doing, guys? Now, I haven't got any personal calls, haven't got any interruptions on my phone all day. That means as soon as I go live now, you might hear a bunch of dings and interruptions. I do apologize if that happens, but I've been trying to be a bit more professional with these intros, with reminding you guys to like and subscribe. It's not my favorite thing to do, but like I always say, it's like pulling teeth for me. But I have to say it off the top of the show to get out of the way. Like and subscribe, because the part we do enjoy, and Gov always mentions it, we do love the interaction. The engagement is awesome. So even on like my Twitter, I'll deal with the trolls, deal with the sex bots, those kind of things, because I know when we actually have a live interaction with the people, it matters. So that's what we're trying to do. It's like, yeah, you can see our plays, and some plays were good, some plays were bad. This is one of my personal lineups, and I wanted to bring it up right off the top before we transition to our show lineups to say that you'll see in my show lineups, and I'll take full accountability for it. I played Johnny Wilson. That was a bad play because I picked the wrong player, but that's why you don't just have a process built on that play or that one play. Because in this lineup, I actually won. It was one of the main reasons we made profit this week, and I was able to overcome all the other mistakes we made in other lineups, was I played Trey Tucker. Now, I could have played Trey Tucker in that lineup. He was on the tip of my tongue, but I was worried about ownership, and I just didn't think it fit that lineup as well because we were playing a lot of Brock Bowers. I knew Donnie was into Brock Bowers a lot. So I just want to mention that, like, you should diversify your portfolio and you should build out player pools. I know people talk about player pools and like, oh, I want to play 3 quarterbacks, but not enough people, I think, dissect what it actually means to build out a player pool. You know, we built Discord channels so we can kind of have our own individual like thoughts and then kind of merge together for these Saturday shows. And so I've seen what Gov kind of does on a weekly basis, and it's really been helpful to see someone else's process. Like, and I know these review shows can kind of be like, well, I already watched football, for 7 hours. I already know what happened. But actually, deep diving these review shows, even like days later, I swear, like, I went back and watched a week 1 review show just to see the mindset in week 1 opposed to like week 4. It was just really interesting. I do think there's something to be gained there. But I just want to mention that off the top. We'll transition to our show lineups and we'll get a deeper dive. But Danny, why don't you update the people on the spread picks?
I have the screen pulled up if you want to switch over to it real quick.
I got to show off your good graphics.
So, lock of the week, we're on a win streak now. We finally caught up 2-2. Bucks cover. Gov had a great week, winning both his spread picks, putting him nice in the lead at 6-2. We have Logan in second after going 1-1 this week, and I got both wrong. Bad week for me, all around. Had a couple things.
The show pick one. That's all that matters. As a show, not only did our show pick is what puts us over 500 as a group this week.
That is historic. Like I say, for any hardcores that have been watching us for a while, we always put on our passion. We don't always get it right though, but I love it. I actually, like I've said so many times, this is hard. And if you really track yourself from week 1 to week 17, I don't think you would. I think you'd be surprised at your record. So I will say we end up doing pretty well on this year after year, don't we, Donnie? I think at the end of the day,
we usually out 500 as a group.
To me, that's a success. Like when you can finish 500, that means like all that time spent, even in DFS, sometimes breaking even is like, oh, that's good because I learned some lessons and I didn't lose any money. Like sometimes breaking even is good enough. Another sidebar that doesn't get talked about enough. But go ahead, Donnie.
No, that's pretty much it.
Anything else?
Yeah, the spreads. I'm very disappointed with myself this week. Mostly the teams that I picked, but nothing went right.
The problem is I throw fastballs. Like, so when I'm wrong, I'm really wrong, and I look almost embarrassingly so, but I don't mind it. Because when I'm really strong on something, I bet it with conviction. Like, I really strongly have an emotional lean. Where you guys are, I think, more calculated, especially Gov. He's more the analytic guy. He's more the deep. He talked about the numbers a lot in our Saturday show. If you guys have, don't remember that. But So it's really interesting to see how it unfolds week after week because we do bet very different. All right. Well, why don't we take a kind of wider look at the week, which includes, I have to mention it, we were right about Derrick Henry. And and I know some people were like, well, Puka got hurt, and that was just a sad kind of first round pick. And there's a lot of injuries that influence first round picks, like Christian McCaffrey, for example. I don't think we should be dancing around that Christian McCaffrey got hurt and like making fun of the person for taking him 101. But there are certain things where you're like, well, I can be proud of this. And it's not to say it's over, but there are certain things that I'm really proud of that we seemingly got right this year. And Derrick Henry is by far one of my favorite. I got it right moments for me. Now, of course, you got to finish the job, but I'm impressed.
He's looking really good in this offense. Like normally, this is the kind of crescendo he starts having in December when he becomes Dehember, and now he's giving it to you the first couple of weeks of the season, trying to reroute the Baltimore season.
What's more impressive is I really thought that Lamar Jackson likes to throw to running backs. I really thought they were going to use him more as a wide receiver this year out of the backfield. And that first week, I remember Hill got a lot of work, and my friend called me up and was like, "I think you're wrong on that. Hill got a lot of work," and I'm like, Hill's still going to be a part of that offense. He was last week as well. He was a part of. He's been a part of their offense all season. But Derrick Henry, I just feel like he's built different, and now he's on a good team. I couldn't be happier. But I'm biased, and it's okay to be biased, I guess, is my overall point on that. Anything else stick out for you guys this week?
I did not even realize Justice Hill had 20 points too. Like, oh my God, they destroyed them. Oh God, I forgot about that showdown. Oh Jesus, Buffalo. So
but that's why I thought Derrick Henry's receiving was going to go up this year.
That being said, I don't think that means anything. That's a regular season game against two teams who are like they're like they low key know like they're not gonna play each other in the playoffs because one of them's gonna play Kansas City, and they're both just trying to be the one that faces Kansas City afterwards. That's all it is. They know that. That game started to not matter, and Buffalo was like, all right, we don't need to show them anything.
Donnie, any takeaways for you this week?
Big takeaways from the games. I don't think any come to mind exactly. I feel like we kind of saw what I expected for the most part. There wasn't any big shockers to me.
True. Like I knew that Kansas City game was probably going to be low scoring and close, and it ended up being. Seattle is able to push a team because they're really high paced, but like Detroit is just a better overall team.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of things.
The big shock was Washington was like really, really good.
That's the only real big one. Like, yeah, Washington blowing out Arizona. Now, I've been saying all year, Arizona is probably one of the worst teams in the league. So this was a bad team versus a bad. So what happens when the movable force meets the object? Like, yeah. It was weird. At least Washington has enough youth. They came out and tried, and this is what happened.
No, and I agree with you on that because when Arizona looked good, it was against the Rams, who had just come off from injuries, who still had offensive line trouble. So the one thing they could do with their linebackers and their exotic blitzes worked against an offensive line that was literally in shambles. So then people overreacted. I think that's what I'm most proud of that we try not to do is overreact. And even when I do, I try to be like, okay, if I'm going to overreact, I have to put some thought behind it. So, like, let's just say I really liked the game or I really wanted to cheer for a player like Derrick Henry. I'm a Derrick Henry stan, right? So that's just an easy one. So if I want to play Derrick Henry this week, I got to still have a stack with him, a bring back. I still got to hope for points on the other side to keep him running the ball, or I'm going to play the Ravens defense to stack with him if I want. Like, you still got to tell yourself stories, even if you want to cheer for things. And I think that's what a good DFS builder does. Like, they're like, okay, I want to cheerlead this, I want to cheer for this outcome, but I still got to build smart around it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing from, it, I guess technically happened today, but Devontae Adams is, officially requested that trade. It's public now. That's what really we have to pay attention to if we're looking at the market for the future, I think. The Raiders.
Where do you honestly think he goes?
Honestly, I don't give a damn. He's Devontae Adams. He'll be fine. I'm not going to try to predict it because I really don't know. If it's New York for some reason, cool. If it's Kansas City somehow, I'd be shocked. But
Chargers.
I'd be shocked. I doubt he goes in division. Maybe he does, though.
I don't think division trades are as rare. I know for myself being a fan of the Lions, like, we've traded a lot with the Minnesota Vikings as of late. Now, those are mostly draft picks, but still, like, pretty high draft picks, So maybe you're right with the superstar player and given the veteran, but I do think it's way more possible nowadays than it used to be, even in my youth. Are you guys ready to look at these lineups?
Oh yeah, let's see what happens.
I think it's gonna auto-load the one that. So this is my other personal. Yeah. So because we lost this week on our group picks, but again, I think we built some really good things. We just didn't have the right combos.
I mean, I think even if we just look at this lineup, the ideas like Johnny Wilson, that's whatever. The Eagles just kind of looked awful.
Yep. That could have usually just been Trey Tucker. Bowers doesn't have a day because Tucker and that has a day.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, my theory on why Najee Harris and what they had been using him this entire year would have come through had they not decided on exactly this one day for Arthur Smith to split his backfield in a 60-40 manner instead of giving Najee 75-80% of the touches.
Cordell Patterson.
With Cordell Patterson. And then running Fields on the goal line twice for both touchdowns. So, like, the theory of Indy can't stop the run worth of fucking shit is still in play, but no one gets any help out of playing Najee.
And Patterson did get hurt. He was out in the second quarter. Like, Patterson honestly almost.
They were giving him carries. It was like 7 carries to 8 carries when that happened.
Yeah,
Patterson had the 8
carries. Patterson finished with 6 carries, and then he had receiving work. Like
6 carries and 2 catches. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he for some reason
he was well on his way to a day.
Yeah, he really, if he would have stayed in the whole game, could have had a 100-yard day. But that's
or at least a multi-touchdown game,
right?
Like they might have given it to him instead of Fields running it in. But the fact that it didn't go to Najee,
yeah.
Now, granted, I can't even blame Arthur Smith because he was doing a lot when he touched the ball. Every time he touched the ball, it was positive. But
let me flip the exact narrative on its head to kind of play devil's advocate. It's like people could say, well, Najee was a bad play because Justin Fields ran it in and he's a running quarterback. And, like, it's like, yeah, well, also he's a big play, quarterback compared to Russell Wilson. And, we just talked about Arthur Smith liking to run the ball. So, like, we do know the reasons we played Harris. Like, some of those reasons are going to conflict. That's part of the speculation of DFS. Like, if everything was a guarantee, then it would be a lot easier game. It wouldn't even be the same game at all. So, yes, of course, did we get very fortunate to have Cordell Patterson rolled out and Harris had to be the guy because Warren was already ruled out. Yes, that's true. But we were playing Harris, I think, at least I was comfortable playing, I should speak for myself, playing Harris because Warren was ruled out. If that backfield was muddled, I would have been far more off of it. Maybe these guys wouldn't have been, but that's my point. It's like we were playing a rushing centric team. Obviously, I knew that Justin Fields, being a rushing centric quarterback, could steal the goal line carries. That happened. The week prior, Harris fell down at the 1 yard line, ended the game on the one, did not force his way into the end zone because the game was already over. Those people were mad at Harris for a totally different reason. So sometimes you just have to take the results, but be proud of the play. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, the only thing I have on that is I remember early in the week, I think it was this time exactly last week, when we had news that Warren might miss, and then at that point Harris also had a Q tag. Me and you had a conversation about Patterson, and I felt like it got, we just kind of forgot about it because obviously we never would have touched Patterson alone. And I don't think you would ever touch Patterson.
Even before that, the workload that Najee had been getting was like he's getting most of the work. Weird.
The Steelers,
and then all of a sudden, on the week when he's chalky in daily fantasy, Arthur Smith switches up his offense and splits the backfield.
And maybe Arthur Smith just plays.
He fucking did this shit in Atlanta. That fucking troll.
Maybe Arthur Smith plays fantasy.
This is just such a good point. You could apply this with any of our luck versus variance narratives. I just want to make this point. We talked about on Saturday about we wanted Najee Harris because of the workload. We had found out again that Warren was out, and I remember we were deciding he was one of our slide-in. This was I think our value lineup. He was one of our slide-in.
He was one of the guys I've loved this week.
And you loved him because of volume. And I remember I said
volume and one of the best rushing matchups in there is. And like I said, I got the matchup right because the Pittsburgh was able to run all over Indy, but Indy's offense was clicking that day, and Flacco kept it clicking that day, and is probably going to keep it clicking moving forward until Richardson's ready.
He might, but if you remember, I said, "But wait a minute, I like Harris because we already know the workload is traditional. You think of Harris, you think of workload. You don't always think of efficiency, but you think of the workload. But wait, Gov, he's been getting a ton of passes recently." And then Donnie sparked up and said, "Yeah, he has been getting a ton of passes." And that is the only reason he got 10 points in this game. So sometimes our deep dives are going to work out in our favor. Literally, he got 3 catches again this week. If he didn't have those 3 catches, it would look a lot worse, and we probably would be upset. Sometimes the reason you play someone is just because you know they're going to be on the field, and then they're going to do something that's totally unorthodox or you didn't expect. Guess what? You get those points too. That's all I want to say. We get those points too. So I just hate the people that are like, "Oh, well, you got lucky. This play was lucky." Jameson Williams, 70-yard touchdown, it was lucky. It's like, yeah, but he's also a speedster wide receiver who has that upside. So when you play the speedster wide receiver like a Shaheen, you are kind of banking that one of these, if we looked at it in a week 1 through 4, you're hoping that one of the weeks he has a spike, 80-yard touchdown. That's why you play guys like that. We played Najee Harris as a volume.
Yeah, well, last week, Joe Flacco coming in for Anthony Richardson. And I will say, because I do harp on Anthony Richardson a bit on, taking hits too much and stuff. The one time he slid, he ended up getting hurt. That's so unfortunate for him. I can't even criticize this injury because it's not his fault anywhere at all. He made the right choice in that he still got hit. I mean, it sucks.
It does, but you have to react to that news. That's why I brought up Deontay Johnson in this player profile, because it reminded me of Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. When there is a quarterback change, whether it's an injury, whether it's predictable, we as fantasy players have to be able to adjust to that news instantaneously. One of the reasons we won this week was because we diversified our portfolio. And Donnie said, whatever they have Michael Pittman's, over at live betting, we should look at it, and that's exactly what I did. So when you have a veteran a quarterback come into a game, and it's going to change up his passing targets, and so maybe we look at Pittman next week. For example, like that's the type of stuff that whether you had Richardson in your lineup or not, when you review the slate, you got to look at things like that. It's not just reviewing your lineup. It's like, what can this information teach me for next week? That's what I always try to do, at least.
Yeah, and another, when we're talking about Colts stuff, guys like Mitchell. Downs had a great day as well. Mitchell wins 27% of his routes most amongst rookies. I mean, there's so many good route runners on that Colts team. Having just a pure pocket passer kind of quarterback that's gonna sit there and get the receivers the ball, that completely is changing this Colts offense.
And a gunslinger at that, So that's going to open up, a Mitchell, a Pierce, that kind of player.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Mitchell, Downs, and Pittman that really, really excel from this. But
Pittman and Downs mostly, in my mind. Like Mitchell and Pierce were more suited to help with Richardson and his long ball accuracy. That's like the only thing he has. Whereas Pittman and Downs are better at the intermediary stuff, so they should probably get more intermediary stuff. The real problem is they need JT to be healthy so that they can run some hard play action for Flacco and let the offense really kick.
Well, another team that runs play action, similar offense. Chubb is coming back soon-ish, a couple of weeks probably. He's practicing tomorrow.
And again, that's something you should consider because, maybe you can't play Chubb, but maybe you're like, hey, maybe I want to play forward if I'm in between two players at this range. Maybe I play forward because he's got to give a little bit more extra to keep that job. Or he's going to want to show out. Or maybe you think the anxiety of trying to keep that job is going to affect him. There's different things that you can do to interplay the news that we hear. I do think that's valuable. One thing I will mention, because I don't think we have him in any other lineup, I'm okay with Brock Bowers. No tight end had really done well this season. We played a volume tight end who had already been getting volume. I mentioned it with Adams in the lineup. Now you take Adams out. I just assumed that he would at least get 6 targets. Guess what? He got 3. We got what I would consider unlucky on the opposite end, negative, leverage or variance. But it's going to happen. I'm okay with that because he was only 5,600. I didn't need a 30-point game. Obviously, I would have liked him not to get a 0 or a snowflake, and then Wilson not to get a 0. But it happened. I built a lineup so I can withstand some mistakes. I don't want any mistakes, but you build a lineup with the idea that you got to get a little bit different sometimes. Anything else you guys want to mention about this lineup?
No, but I understand exactly what you were saying earlier. We needed a lower owned play because everything ended up chalky.
Right.
Even though Nico Collins wasn't supposed to be as chalky as he was. Neither was Jamar Chase, but they had to pull all that ownership from Rashee Rice, who wasn't played. So not as many people got hurt when Rashee Rice unfortunately got hurt.
I will say, though, that's why I love these conversations that we have on Saturday and this we have in our Discord, because I was already going to play Collins. Probably in, I would say, 75% of my lineups. I was pretty high on him. But then I saw that Donnie was really high on him, and you could see it, go. And so when that happens, it's I like him already. I should find more ways to get him in. And so sometimes even when you get him in lineups that don't work, it's you can still be proud of that process because you have it in other things. I had him in that Trey Tucker lineup. So, but again, in this lineup, it just didn't fit because we needed a kind of dart, we needed that dart throw.
And I didn't know, all the high-end tight ends were sort of pulling 7 to 10%. So, there was no one else we could have pivoted to off of Bowers. Yes, Kittle got more points, but he probably had the same ownership. So, looking at the lineup,
right,
it seems kind of chalky. And except for the pieces that really weren't chalky were kind of the stuff that failed, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and one of the tight ends we brought up that I think we might have almost played it. I'm not quite sure. Mike Gesicki, he had 0.1 points. Like,
yeah, I know. I played him in personal lineups.
Yeah, multiple, sorry to remind you.
You
could have played Kyle Pitts. Could have been worse. Could have gotten 0.
Well, like we could have had Strange for example. This is the perfect. He's a lot cheaper than.
I had this fuck too.
I saw him catch a touchdown.
I should have just made up for Kittle.
But that doesn't mean because I saw him score a touchdown and I knew he'd be somewhat popular and he was easy to bring back with Collins, I should play him. Because I just thought with the Adams news that Brock Bowers basically becomes a wide receiver. So I still make that move over playing one of these guys or playing like the Arizona value. Like I'm okay with losing with Brock Bowers.
Me too.
What I'm not okay with, again, is just losing when it doesn't make sense. Go ahead, Donnie.
I just think if the way the Raiders lose is if they don't get a guy like Bowers the ball, and they didn't get a guy like Bowers the ball, and they still managed to win. So I guess that's a testament to how bad Cleveland really is. I don't know how they fix their issues, besides eat the fact that you have to still have another $200 million to pay Deshaun Watson.
I did bench him.
Hard to convince an owner you can do that.
I mean, honestly, at this point, I think you tell that owner like you're gonna fire me whether this works or doesn't. And these players don't want to play with. I think it's pretty clear that like the players, whether you want to believe with them personally or not, the players have given up on Watson ever being the superstar quarterback. So you almost have to just play the best quarterback, I think, to save your job. Because you might be right, Donnie, but that the owner is going to blame the coach if you lose. If he doesn't blame the quarterback, he's going to blame the coach. So at least I'm going to do it my way until you fire me the next week. That's just.
I can't even comprehend the amount of regression that's gone through Watson, and I've never seen somebody deserve it more.
That's what I mean. Like,
I am enjoying every minute of it, so I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, I'm with you. You see what I mean? Though, like if you're in a landfill and your boss is like, "Yeah, I want you to keep filling this trash bin full of garbage," but it's not making any progress. Eventually, he's going to blame you and you're going to be gone. Someone else will do the job. At least if I'm going to get fired, I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to try something different because this might work. And if this works, I might be able to keep my job. But otherwise, I'm going to lose it regardless. So I just feel like at some point, you got to be like, you hired me to do a job. Watch me do my job. If you want to hate me for doing, and that's why I want to play Jameis Winston when it does happen, because I do think it will happen at some point. Because I want to know that conversation that Kevin Stefanski has with Jameis Winston, because it's got to be like a closed door meeting, like, sir, I'm putting my neck in the line for you. You got to go out and have a great game. Because if he can do that, then you look like a genius. If not, then the owner, to Donnie's point, is just going to kill you. Like you're going to become the scapegoat. Anything else you want to mention? I actually like this lineup more than I like the lineup that has scored almost 30 points more. So, like, if you took away a point.
It's so close. Like,
yeah.
Nico was better than Diggs, but, like, yes, Houston wide receiver. I had all Godwin when I knew Evans was totally viable to just have the day instead, and, yeah. And then we already know that Bowers and Wilson should have just been Tucker and a different tight end. Otherwise, everything else, like, didn't, like, massively go off. Yeah. But it also, nothing hurt. 14% Connor with some low ownership, 17% Kyron with some lower ownership, like mid-range ownership. Like those are good, solid afternoon plays.
Mm-hmm.
Or Connor's a good afternoon play, or one of the four plays.
And
like those are two, like all those are solid plays. Mm-hmm. Dalton didn't kill you. Najee had 2 touchdowns vultured from him by Justin Fields.
And let's be honest, we're lucky that Connor did so good, because you're going to tell me that Cardinals only score 14 points, they get blown out, and Connor still comes away with a 21-point day?
100 yards rushing and a touchdown.
That just makes you like Connor more.
Man's a workhorse. Love the dude.
Yeah. Well, you can see what Gov was doing. He was playing workhorses, that expected some receiving as well. You played a lot of Harris, I can tell, but based on what you like this week, and you played a lot of Connor. So, that's what I'm trying to say is whether we fall on the sword or we pick it up in victory, we have a process and we stick with it because it shows results over time. So that'd be my challenge for everyone this week. It's like when you play a person, know why you're playing them. Literally ask yourself out loud, why do I want to play this guy? And maybe it's a silly reason like my mom likes his jersey number or he went to my favorite college. But at least if you're going to play a piece of that game for some silly reason, at least make the rest of it make sense. Like if you're going to play Collins, have a Kirk in that lineup, something like that. You gotta at least make your highest outcome possible. I just want to mention that as well. Like I'm not saying don't have fun. I think so much of these review shows get into so much of the weeds where we forget that this is a game of fun. Like you should have good bankroll management. You should have fun. You should do this with friends. Because I'll tell you what, this is honestly some of my best content of the week is just being able to hang out with these two guys, the three of us. I guess I do enjoy talking to myself sometimes, but that's neither here or there. Anything else, Donnie, you want to mention from a process perspective on this lineup?
No, I mean, I kind of like how most of it looked. I played mostly the same things, little switches here and there. Like I played more Evans and Godwin, but
the ownership even looks good on it. Like there's no one we didn't play super chalk, but we did play a lot of plays that were being used. But like Nico came in higher, so we played the secondary stuff. Evans came in higher owned, so we played the secondary. Like we were playing a lot of the off, hoping like if it's a Godwin day and a Diggs day, like if it's a Godwin day and a Diggs day, and they're the ones with 25 points instead of 18 and 12.
But honestly, Nico should have had more points than what he had because Stroud missed him on a touchdown once, at least you could say. You could argue there was 2 touchdowns potential, but the second one was just a hard throw to make.
12 for 150 and a touchdown. God damn it, Donnie! Like just give the man.
No, I'm blaming. Listen, Nico. I was completely wrong about it. I'm finally saying it. Whatever. I'm wrong.
Like that. Like if Diggs and Godwin all of a sudden have like the 2 days that Nico and Evans had, where they like in that this lineup is smashing.
Houston really could have blown out the Jaguars though, and I put that on Stroud. But
the reason I'd say though, thank you is actually a very similar play and idea. Is I still think Godwin and Evans would have been ready. Like they would have been ready for that Lions Seahawks kind of back and forth game. Guess what? The Eagles didn't show up. So that game didn't get pushed. Had they gotten pushed, I don't think there was anything that was going to stop Godwin and Evans from having a superstar kind of horsepower offensive game. So we were right on that play. Now, maybe that's sometimes validating, scapegoating self-sabotage in a way where it's like you want it to happen, so you're going to tell yourself stories to make it happen or like where it could have happened. I understand that, but I'm saying like that's why we play it. We don't play it because it will work or it should work. We play it because we think it's going to work. So even when it doesn't, we got to be like, was this a good play or was this not? And I think the only thing that stopped Godwin from having a good day was how bad Hurts played. So at least we didn't have Hurts in the lineup. Like think about the combinations and the correlations that really didn't work out. Sometimes that helps me, because those aren't bad lineups either. Go ahead, Donnie.
Tampa Bay, we kind of knew this going. Philly's secondary. I mean, I thought they had names on there all the time, but it just never plays well.
Mm-hmm.
And Tampa Bay always kills them. I had no doubt about these receivers.
Like multiple games going back, like Tampa Bay just sort of owns Philly.
Yeah, they're just built perfectly to beat Philly, and that's fine. And let's be honest, 6 catches for 69 yards, Godwin. That's a pretty solid day for a guy in general. He just didn't get a touchdown, and he didn't get forced to throw the ball. I mean, they did not need to throw the ball after the second half, really.
anything that week 4 told you that you want to look forward to for week 5, like if you were basically going to say like week 4 taught me this, so that way in week 5 in my look ahead, I could think this or I should do this. I'll start with mine because I kind of knew the question. I want some Gibson, I think, this week. I think they're really upset with Stevenson for fumbling. If I need a cheap running back, I'm looking at Gibson because he's gotten some work and he's really cheap still, but he hasn't really got the reception work that we thought he might get. I think they might just turn away from Stevenson and try Gibson because at least he might hang on to the ball. Like stuff like that is valuable to me.
There's no world where Stevenson isn't the number one back. The split is pretty much going to stay the same. Gibson's going to give you the value he's been giving you all year, probably about 10 to 15 points potential, but that's it. Stevenson is the guy.
That's true.
It is true.
Gibson's not taking over that backfield in any way. But like I could also see them like not wanting to start, like if they really think their season's going to go down the drain, I wouldn't want to run Stevenson into the ground. You'll start seeing more Gibson at that point. I
guess that's what I mean is more like we can adjust to what we are seeing on the field to say maybe this is more of a Najee Harris kind of Warren situation than it is like just pure workhorse. Stuff like that, I think you start to pay attention to more. But any takeaways like from week 4 that you want to carry over to week 5 for you?
Just
process was working. Like that's the one thing. Like you were saying, like I just go back and I'm reviewing what I had down. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, yes. Trying to figure out where I could have gone wrong, and the only place I can think of was there were plays where like I loved certain like mini stacks that I didn't stack the game for, like Tampa Bay. Like I loved playing Godwin one-offs, but I never thought about really stacking Baker. I loved playing Aaron Jones and Jaden Reed. Never really thought about stacking either side of that game. Mm-hmm. Loved playing George Pickens. Never really thought about stacking Fields. Couple of glaring misses in my mind. It's like I was looking for a solid stack that was going to be low owned, and like Dalton seemed like the only thing. So I played a lot of that along with Stroud, but it was staring me in the face that like if I like these plot spots to go off, the whole game could have a good environment. So why not stack one of those? Like if I would have gone Jordan Love with Jaden Reed and a bunch of others and Aaron Jones on the other side, that would have been a pretty damn good lineup.
I had Stroud personal as well, and just thinking about it, Baker was the same exact play, just cheaper. Literally the same thing, just cheaper.
That's why I was on Daniels this week over Richardson. It wasn't that I could forecast an injury. It wasn't like I'm like, oh, this is, I'm just like, he's cheaper. The ownership will be there because he's cheaper, and the offense has been more efficient, so the ownership will be there. But I'm like, you can give me the upside of Daniels at a cheaper price, I'm going to take it. I think that's valuable. You should probably consider doing that more. It's like, who's a cheaper version of what we have now? I think that's valuable.
Baker just would have never popped in my mind, and I know that. But when you look back on it, if I like we had the same conversation about both the games, yet and Baker always has killed Philly, and I just didn't even put 2 and 2 together. That's probably my Baker bias.
I'll be honest, I have one too. I have a Baker bias, and like that's what I was saying earlier. Is sometimes you have to know what your biases are, so either you can fight against them, or you be like, you know what? On days where my biases are going to overrule me, I have to be okay losing if it happens. Like it's going to save you sometimes. Like I knew this one guy who just he doesn't like Justin Fields. So like when Justin Fields was really bad, he looked really good. And then, when Justin Fields was running around like he was against Indy this week, he's going to lose. And so sometimes if you play that roller coaster game in DFS, you're going to get roller coaster results. And so you just got to know it. And like, you can play that way. It is for fun. It is for entertainment, but you just got to know what you're getting into. I just pulled up a lineup by random here, and it was funny because you mentioned the Steelers double stack, Gov. You think I did on purpose, but I really did not. And I played Austin in a single game last
You
week.
should have went Fryermuth with the double. Ooh.
Yeah, I know Austin had a big game, and this is just where it's like, you overthought yourself because Fields' ownership and his rushing upside you don't need to overthink it. Like playing a rushing quarterback like Fields, you're already kind of baking in that double because you're baking in his rushing upside on top of the passing. Like I just feel like that was chasing a bit. And although I get it, I don't like two pass catchers on the same roster without a bring back. And
Damn, he's a 2v2 from having like shipping potential too.
Yeah,
like if he would have gone Fryermuth at tight end and then played like the bring back of Downs or someone in that 4K range, even Leggett with Deontay somehow, like any one of those kind of plays in that 4K range, if he would have landed on like the most obvious one with this would have been like switch Goddard and Calvin Austin to Fryermuth and Josh Downs.
That's what I mean. Like, okay, if you're going to play
that would have given him 200 plus points.
Yeah. Like, Donnie, tell me if I'm wrong, but if you're going to play Dallas Goddard and Saquon Barkley, then play the Eagles defense with it. Like, play the, Eagles are going to just dominate the Bucks, right? Or play the Bucks defense.
If Goddard's getting the ball, then they have to be able to put up points.
Right, because, I'm saying, like, you're just playing for that massacre game of Barkley's going to do great because he's a he's a high-price guy. You got to pay for it. And then Dallas is going to get there, too. That game means the Eagles are going to score. The Eagles would have to score 33 points, and Tampa scores 16, but he didn't build that way because you don't have any Tampa guys. Like, I don't. So that's why the double stack there didn't make sense to me. It's not so much I hate the idea of stacking two guys from the same team without the quarterback. It's like you also didn't have a Tampa guy. Like, how does that lineup get there? You don't have the defense if you're saying the Eagles are going to blow them out. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about, like, it has to make sense. Like,
I think he played the best defense on the board. I mean, I know that.
That's true. He did end up playing the best defense on the board. Like,
right.
I can see, like, okay, if you have the money, a points per dollar thing, it's like it doesn't matter points per dollar. It's raw points. Even if you think Philly blows them out, it's also projected for the 49ers to blow them out. So,
yeah, play Kittle. Play Kittle and Debo. It's like, I don't know.
He correlated his running back with his defense already, though. Is the point? I don't think he had to play the Eagles' defense. I know he's already got the correlation there.
I guess I just don't understand how playing two Eagles without the quarterback or any other kind of correlation makes any sense.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong, but
I think you're overlooking that. But Barkley only got 3 carries in the second half, something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And he got there based on one big, I think basically like a screen pass.
He had one big run in the second half, and that was the last time he touched the ball, like from the rushing side of it anyway.
But that's where you're going to get lucky sometimes. That one catch, that one screen pass goes 70 yards, and, you can turn a bad day to a good day. Jameson Williams, I mentioned it, did that. He basically had like 2 points up until that 80-yard touchdown he had on Monday night. So that's why you do play some of those guys. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
That's it from me.
All right. Good night, guys. Take care. We'll be with you again this weekend. I think Joe had to step away. I didn't see the private message there, but we'll be back Saturday. We'll see you guys then. Hopefully we'll build some good, group lines and they'll be winning. But I do think we're giving the people good content and good structure, Johnny. So we'll continue that. Again, we did make profit and total this week. So we'll live to fight another day. Until then, see you guys Saturday.
Night, everyone.
Peace out, guys.